Good evening, racing fans to the Elite Racing Network. It is round number 8 of the 2025 Elite Racing League JUICYSPYDER Truck Series. We're here for another full distance race in the series. Round number 8 brings us to Kansas City, Kansas at Kansas Speedway for the Kansas 200. In case you couldn't tell, we are in Kansas. I'm William White. Alongside me in the race control commentary box is Mathieu Weeks, and up in the production booth is Jesse Rasimas, who'll be manning the buttons, giving you all your graphics and information. Tonight, there'll be 134 laps ahead of us. As you see there, 3 stages, end of lap 30, end of lap 60, and then the end of the race on lap 134. 4 sets of tyres in the pits for those drivers to utilise. And, of course, no stage yellows on the ovals, as is precedent in this league. But there's your starting lineup, and it's 2 past Cup Series championships. They share 4 cup titles between them, and they share an identical front row lap time. Both drivers setting a 31.117. That's Tate Lytle on pole and Justin Wadsworth on his outside in second place. Gavin Higgins just 1 millisecond behind the pair of them. He will start in P3 with second in the championship so far. Tom Bourne in the 61 on the outside of row 2. JP Phillips for Unacceptable Racing. Not quite going to get the 3P on the poles this season, but he will start in a solid P5. Harrison Talon with a good P6 in the number 51 truck. Caleb Bakuma for Lake Norman Motorsports will start 7th, with Tommy Ryan in the 66 in P8. Jeff Green and Joe Francis round out the top 10. Tyler Foti and Jay Connor in the 40 and 9 will round out the top 12. Mathieu Weeks.
Then we got Chris Wright rolling off 13th, Neil Rutt 14th, Jaden Rasimas, I always mess up. Always 15th. Dylan Avere 16th. Josh Adams 17th. Leighton Norgard 18th. Jonathan Cullip making one of his few truck starts rolling off 19th. Michael Hosick 20th. Cody McCorkle rolling off 21st. Seth Rawls 22nd. Stan Boutwell 23rd, and Andrew Hardcastle 24th.
Quickly rattle off the rest of the grid here. There you see Austin and Abnett in the 60 and Frank Foti in the 41, making up an all Lake Norman row 13. Dusty Dewar and Shay Mitchell 27th and 28th. Justorian and Daniel Gore from the UK, winner last week out in Dover. He's in 30th. Scotty Yancey, Gerald Campbell row 16th. Brent Jones, Tyler Dixon row 17th. Mitchell Havere and Connor Thompson will be the top 36, and then rounding out the grid quickly, Rob Mooney, Aaron Yancey, Dave Huckleberry, Ryan Campbell, Jeff Ryan, Carl Hanshaw, and Vincent Isabella is your 43 truck grid for tonight here for 134 laps here at Kansas. Just quickly before we go green here, Mathieu Weeks, who's your pick for tonight?
I'm going to go with Josh Adams. He ran here a couple weeks ago when it was like that 13th week, and he ran a few truck races, and he was pretty quick, so...
Josh Adams from P17 on the grid. We'll see if he can win. That's Mathieu Weeks' pick. But we are green here in Kansas for the Kansas 200. And it's Tate Lytle and Justin Wadsworth off to a dead even start off the green flag. You see the field begin to disperse behind them. But it's Tate Lytle that takes a 1-track length lead into first place. And Gavin Higgins will follow in tow straight into second place ahead of Justin Wadsworth. JP Phillips looking to get another place up into third on this start, but Justin Wadsworth will use the slipstream to hang right to the back of the 20 truck. See the low line currently being the preferred line here, but Tate Lytle coming under increasing pressure from Gavin Higgins, and Higgins is going to go to the inside looking for the lead early doors here at the end of lap 1. Tate Lytle will lead that particular lap, but barely a hair to split them, as into turn 1 and 2 we go for the first time. Gavin Higgins to the lead for the first lane change of the night. Might have overcooked it a little bit there. Tate might come back at him, and he does. Power move to the inside already. We're fighting hard for the lead, Mathieu Weeks. Can they keep this up for 134 laps?
They can, but this track is tricky with the truck because it's like a lot of throttle time, but all that throttle time you're going to burn your tires. So you got to be smart about how much you're using that throttle through the corners.
Definitely deceivingly easy would be the way I describe Kansas. Pretty much full throttle in the early stages of the race and in qualifying, but if you carry that torch too much in the race, you will be punished for it, as Gavin Higgins goes back to the lead with help from JP Phillips. And already you're seeing Mathieu, JP Phillips, Tom Bourne, and Caleb Bakuma as well, way up by the wall there. That is thanks, of course, to the way Kansas is paved. It's quite multi-groove in that there is slightly steeper banking up towards the top of the track. As the run goes on and the tyres begin to wear, are we going to start to see more drivers migrate to the high side as tyres begin to wear?
Yeah, especially a lot of these guys that are rolling the bottom are taking care of their tires, and then I say about 25 laps on the, running the bottom, they're going to move up and really start surging forward, and that's what you would do it. And Kansas is one of the best tracks on the sim. Like you said, multiple lanes and multiple choices on how you can pass people and save your tires. All kinds of stuff you can do here at this track.
I'm already seeing the many different ways you can overtake here. So we've had 3 different leaders in the first 4 laps here as JP Phillips now, while we weren't looking, has gone to the lead here at Kansas. Gavin Higgins now 1/4 of a second back there with Tom Bourne hot on his heels here, but JP Phillips beginning to establish somewhat of a commanding lead up at the front. 2/10 will split Phillips and Higgins across the stripe here at the end of lap 5, but of course, as you mentioned, Matthew, that top side does wear on your tyres a little bit harder. We'll see whether drivers begin to prioritise stage points over long run longevity here, as of course stage points are on offer in the ends of lap 30 and lap 60, but of course lap 134 is where drivers will search for all the glory here, and we'll see how crucial those stage points prove to be in the championship fight here as Tom Bourne makes the move on Gavin Higgins to the inside. Higgins will not let that go lightly as we have a side-by-side battle for second place here. So already these drivers are going hard for each and every position at the beginning of this race. We'll see if that comes back to bite them as Gavin Higgins right near the wall there, almost scraping the right rear on the safer barrier to the outside of the track here. Of course, drivers will get increasingly close as they push every inch, every millimetre out of their machinery, trying to get every millisecond they can. And Tom Bourne, Gavin Higgins still side by side for second place. Matthew, is this the point where if you're someone like Tate Lytle, Justin Wadsworth, even Jeff Green, if you're in this pack single file running the bottom, are you going to start to think now that you're 8 laps into the run, this is going to go green the whole way and you'll start to eventually run this top 3 back down?
You're hoping it goes long. I mean, I know Tate's my teammate. I know he's like similar to me. He likes to save the tires and get you late in the run. So yeah, you're hoping this goes long. You're just down there biding your time, taking care of your right front right now. Eventually there will be a caution. We all know something will probably happen. If not, then they'll be in the money seat right now.
Definitely. I mean, of course, the way these trucks are low horsepower relative to the other NASCAR stock cars, they are packed together, as you can see. Saying that JP Phillips has flown off into the sunset nearly a second in front of Tom Bourne, but everyone from Tate Lytle back in P4 all on top of each other here. We're seeing 2x2 very deep in the field here, and of course the margin for error very slim when you're all door to door like that, so it could definitely all go wrong in the blink of an eye for a lot of these drivers, and it could very quickly go wrong for the top 3 if this were to go long. They are hoping for a shorter run to get some new tyres and then be on equal footing while having the track position. JP Phillips here, you see at the end of lap 10, still running the very high side, and he's working well here at Kansas, building up a lead of over 0.8 of a second over Tom Bourne, who himself has 0.3 on Gavin Higgins, who has nearly a second himself over Tate Lytle. So Tate Lytle started this race on pole, is now the best part of 2 seconds off the race leader, less than a dozen laps in. Now on paper, that had spelled disaster, but I think this is just the gulf of the variance in strategy between the drivers here. The top 3 electing really to use tyres early on, get track position. Meanwhile, everyone, Justin Wadsworth, Tate Lytle, really looking to super save almost and look after their tyres later in the run. There's Josh Adams, Matthew's pick to win the race. He currently sits in P11, so he's 6 spots up on his starting position of 17th. Behind him in P12 is the number 12, Leighton Norgard for Abbott Motorsports, looking to try and capitalise on a subpar qualifying, I think he would say, as he began to tumble down the order late in the running there. Was as high as 3rd or 4th, but ended up qualifying in position number 18. So it was very much followed Adams through the pack, but here comes Jay Connor now looking for the move on a Leighton Norgard. That's your fight for position number 12, but Further up inside the top 11, everyone is pretty much single file. And you notice the gap in the top left of your screen. We mentioned that the gap between JP Phillips and Tom Bourne was as high as 8.5 tenths of a second. That's gone down to just 6 tenths or less here as Tom Bourne begins to reel in the 34. Is this the point, Matthew, where we're beginning to see the tides turn in terms of tyre wear?
Yeah, we're gonna start seeing it right here soon. I say we're lap 14. I say about lap 20, we're really gonna start seeing who took care of their tires.
And the gap continues to fall here. Less than half a second there, briefly, between JP Phillips and Tom Bourne. Jay Connor, all types of oversteering, fishtailing all over the shop there. Manages to hold on there. Might have just tagged the outside wall ever so slightly. We'll see if Josh Adams can take advantage of that particular error. But now, Tom Bourne begins to roll up to the back of the number 34 Hulk Fishing Chevrolet there of JP Phillips. The gap continuing to tumble almost less than 4 tenths of a second. Gavin Higgins as well, hovering around the 1 second mark here. You'll see the last 4 laps, lap 11, lap 12, lap 13, lap 14. Tom Bourne noticeably quicker than JP Phillips will come across the track this time. See if that gap has fallen. I think judging by the top left, I believe it has. And by over 1/10 of a second, Tom Bourne continuing to reel in the 34 here. This is the most laps that anyone has led so far tonight, as JP Phillips has led about a dozen of laps here at Kansas so far tonight. He's hoping that he can make those times work until lap 30 and get himself 10 stage points for his troubles in his bid to make the playoffs. Tom Bourne and Gavin Higgins looking to deny him that pleasure, but Tommy Ryan was part of that group alongside Justin Wadsworth and Tate Lytle that were holding station on the low line towards the back of the pack, and they've begun to resurge and close that gap back down here. Is less than 2 tenths, less than 3 tenths rather, separate Jeff Ryan from Gavin Higgins in 3rd place. Of course, this front 3 were using their tyres early on. Justin Wadsworth and Tate Lytle very much being dragged along with the 66 here, and you see the 66 now electing to use the higher side. Jay Connor, I think, might have just tagged the wall there ever so slightly, but no harm, no foul on the number 9 machine. Is a fight further back. This is Chris Wright and Cody McCorkle, the 2 and the 8 for Shift Esports and Lake Norman Motorsports, respectively, inside the top 20. Good solid runs for both of these trucks right now, but both looking to assert a title challenge. Cody McCorkle, winner at Richmond, currently your championship leader. Chris Wright has made 2 championship 4 appearances in the Truck Series in the past, looking to go one better in this particular season. There's your championship standings. Cody McCorkle does lead the way, the only driver to break the 200-point mark on 205. Tom Bourne, as we mentioned, second in the title race. He's on 199 points and he's currently second in the race on the track. The gap, though, has come down to just south of 3 tenths of a second between JP Phillips and Tom Bourne here. As we cut back to the live picture there again, Jay Connor really struggling for grip as he fights Harrison Towland for position there. That's not the first time we have seen Jay Connor fishtailing down the back straight here. But it seems somewhat, Mathieu Weeks, that the gap is beginning to stagnate as we ride on board with Aggressive Eagles Tom Bourne here. Is this the point in the run where turbulent air and tyre wear sort of begins to even out and it becomes more of a fight of who's got the better track position at this time, and with Tom Bourne essentially unable to break the sort of bubble that's formed between himself and JP?
Yeah, kinda. I know the trucks have a little bit of draft that help him, but they're really running 2 different lanes in the corner, so Bourne's really not getting that dirty air effect since he's running the bottom. I just think JP went hard, took the lead, built the gap, and now he just rode the bottom for a little bit, cooled his tires back down. Now he's back up there ripping. And now we see Tom Bourne starting to run the outside, and a little loose gets in the wall. These guys are really starting to struggle right now.
Tom Bourne trying to take everything he can here with less than 10 laps to go in stage number 1. Every single stage point absolutely paramount to your title challenges. Again, see just how close they get to the wall there. See speeds reaching north of 180 miles per hour.
Oh, there's a wreck going on the front stretch. A latent turn, Austin and Nabnett right there.
We check on the replay, courtesy of Mark J. Robilis Photography. Incident between Leighton Norgard and Austin Inabnet coming off of turn number 4.
Oh,
And Austin and Abnett might have chopped down a little bit. Leighton Norgard coming up a little bit. They both save it. They both have to run through the grass. No yellow. We stay racing. And speaking of racing, here is a race between Tommy Ryan and Gavin Higgins. We mentioned Higgins was one of the 3 that went harder at the beginning of the run. That has now caught up to him as Tommy Ryan has made the move for position number 3. Justin Wadsworth looking to follow the 66 through, as is the 56 of Tate Lytle. So Gavin Higgins could lose yet more positions for his troubles here, as he might be struggling to hang on to a top 5 position come the end of the stage. But as you see, Tom Bourne still unable to break that 3/10 of a second gap between himself and JP Phillips. And with 7 laps to go in the stage, JP Phillips, all things remaining as they stand, should be able to collect 10 stage points for his troubles here, and another stage victory in the JUICYSPYDER Truck Series this season. Higgins does cut above Justin Wadsworth. Tate Lytle looks low on the 6. The 6 does briefly look for middle 3, but Gavin Higgins quickly shuts off that particular avenue. And Tate Lytle might be looking to get ahead of Justin Wadsworth here. But Wadsworth will hang on the right rear of the 56. They'll be even coming out of turn number 4. Running on board with the days gone by. Toyota from Pro Edge Racing. Tate running the middle. Justin Wadsworth way up to the top of the track. And Tate might be just able to squeak ahead. And he is, as we ride aboard the Waste Management number 6. There is a swap of position. Tate Lytle now back into the top 5 and looking to reassert himself as one of the faster trucks in this race, as he surges after Tommy Ryan and Gavin Higgins. But I think JP Phillips, all things are remaining as they stand, Matthew, should be good for another 10 stage points.
oh yeah, and I know he's looking good in the points. It's not about the stage points. You want that playoff point. That's going to help you get by the first round. You know, so much easier than not having any of those playoff points if you don't got to win.
Playoff points are, of course, very important.
A lot of guys are struggling on the exit. I think Hostic got the wall out of 2 there. Just a lot of these guys drove really hard early in the run, and they're starting to really pay for it now.
We've seen a few guys already in this first preliminary stage begin to knock the wall down a couple of times. Might see some stripes on the passenger side door of some of these trucks. Excuse me. By the end of the race, and there's another one. Gavin Higgins with a massive wallop into the side of the outside retaining wall. That might be one of the bigger hits we've seen tonight. And he will lose 1 or 2 positions. He's almost into it again. But Tom Bourne still unable to break that gap. Tommy Ryan now within a second of our race leader, JP Phillips. But 3 laps to go in stage number 1. It'll be a playoff point as well, as Matthew mentioned, for JP if he can hold on to this lead. And that will be big for his playoff push, as it will seed him higher before the first race of the playoffs at Michigan. That will be on the 7th of June. So what that will do for him is it will put him in a higher seed and makes it harder for him to essentially miss the championship for. Of course, it's a win and you're in system, but it makes it easier for him to point in should he fail to win any of those races. But Tom Bourne really beginning to close in now. He's broken the 2/10 mark, and could that be the point where Tom Bourne really begins to reel in the 34? He again runs lower, but JP has the exit speed there, running the higher line. Will be white flag for the stage this time on lap 30 of 134. Tom Bourne again drives it in deep into turn 3, trying to get to the left rear of JP. Less than a tenth now separating the pair, and he's going to be just there before the end of the stage. JP looked safe. He throws the block to the apron. Here comes Tom Bourne for the stage win. Playoff points, super important. Here comes a potential slide job from the 61. Watch the ticker on your top left. See who's just got a nose ahead. This time it'll be JP Phillips that powers back to the lead, and it'll be a quarter of a second going into turn 3. And I think that'll be just about enough for JP Phillips to hang on to the stage win. Tommy Ryan there towards the top of the track there, seeing if he can get potentially a position coming to the stripe, but no dice for the 66, no dice for the 61. JP Phillips wins the first stage here at Kansas, Mathieu Weeks.
Yeah, that's good right there. And then Tommy Ryan and Tate really took care of their tires. They're really starting to roll, and don't look now. You see that bright yellow car. You know, he started back there in the midfield, starting to roll up there too, Johnny Cullip, and we all know he's pretty quick at this track.
Yeah, reminds me of that Grand National Series race we had where I was up running second, thought I was the coolest man in the world, and then I look at my relative and Jonathan Cutlip's a good 6-7 seconds down the road, making us all look like mugs. He knows this track like the back of his hand. He started deep in the field, started in P19, he's up to P9, very methodically, patiently working his way through this field. And as you mentioned, Matthew, the guys like Tommy Ryan, Tate Lytle that were patient with their tyres are beginning to roar back through the field. Here comes Tate Lytle now on the 66 of Tommy Ryan here. Shoots back to the bottom, does look to have the grip and the purchase in that truck to make that move to the inside, squeezes the 66 hard but fair, racing between the pair, and Tate Lytle will just have a nose on Tommy Ryan going into turn number 1, and you can imagine that with a good entry here, the 56 should be able to slide up in front of the 66. Tommy Ryan does well here though, manages to hang on the right rear. No dice for Tate Lytle this time by, as the gap continues to shrink between the race leader and P2 Tom Bourne here. Tom Bourne looking for the race lead for potentially our 4th different leader tonight. Tom Bourne still has JP on his right rear. Not quite clear this time. JP Phillips does fishtail coming out of turn 4. Tom Bourne leads lap 33, leads the lap for the first time tonight. Tate Lytle does get the move done on the 66 of Tommy Ryan, and Tom Bourne not quite clear of the 34, still has JP Phillips all over his right rear, gets a little bit loose coming out of turn 2. That now turns the tide in favour of the 34, and on lap 34 it might just be JP in the lead coming to the stripe. But here comes Tate Lytle now, started on pole, set a blisteringly quick lap time to put himself on the front of the grid, and it looks like he's ready to surge his way back towards the front. Offset 3 wide now, going into turn 1. Tate Lytle, the meat in the sandwich. JP Phillips up higher, Tom Bourne way down low there, and it's now going to be 2 wide off the corner. Tom Bourne back down to 3rd. Tommy Ryan out of a line there. Tate Lytle still to the left rear of JP Phillips, and you can imagine that before long Tate Lytle will get this move done, and with a solid entry we now have the pole sitter back to the front on lap 35 of 134. Tate Lytle's back to the lead, and you'd have to say, Matthew, if this keeps going green, the ball is well within Tate Lytle's court here.
Yeah, but you got Fody who's caught this lead group too, and then you got John back there chipping away as well. I think if it goes green, I think it's going to be a fight between those 3. They seem to be the fastest 3 trucks on this long run.
Tate Lytle beginning to pull away. You should see the ticker begin to switch again. Tom Bourne and JP Phillips continue to fight for position number 2 as we ride on board with Tate Lytle. Tom Bourne just squeaking every little millisecond he can out of that fight between JP Phillips and himself, and I think he's just about managed to get that move done, as here comes Tyler Foti as well. Down the inside with an authoritative move to the inside of the 34. JP with absolutely zero answer, the 7-time elite champion now looking for a move potentially on Tom Bourne here. Throws the block, covers the outside. Tyler Foti will simply shoot to the inside, runs the middle of the track here. Can Tom Bourne hold off the 7-time champion for much longer? The ball definitely looks to be in the court of the number 40, but he still is running the inside with some authority, but the gap continues to grow here. 0.8 of a second, and it's going to keep growing the more these guys keep fighting for position. Tom Bourne unable to reply. Tyler Foti up to P2, and as you mentioned, Matthew, it could potentially be a fight between Tate Lytle and Tyler Foti, but I think Tate's done a good job of capitalising on the fight between Foti and the rest of the field, and it's allowed him to pull away to nearly a second in front. Does this allow Tate Lytle to just save a bit more tyre and potentially be in a better situation if Tyler Foti ever comes knocking on the door?
Yeah, I think as soon as he took the lead, he backed it off just to cool the tires back down. And as I say that, you know, he goes back up and rips the fence. Right now, I think he's trying to go hard now, build the gap, because we should be coming up on green flag pit stops here in about 10 laps.
Of course, green flag pit stops are definitely more fun than just pitting on the yellow. Definitely has an extra element of strategy, undercuts, overcuts, fuel mileage racing, as well, but still 3/4 of a second between Tate Lytle and Tyler Foti. Tom Bourne and Tommy Ryan continue to fight for position. JP Phillips has unfortunately further cascaded down the field here, down now to P6 as Justin Wadsworth reasserts himself in the top 5. And just at the back of your picture there's Jonathan Cutlip. We mentioned him being good at Kansas Speedway. He's just made the move on Gavin Higgins for position number 7. So he has surged up 12 spots from his starting position here of 19th. But you see the lap times at the bottom of your screen there. At the end of lap 40, Tyler Foti has been faster each of the last 3 laps than Tate Lytle, meaning there are less than 7/10 of a second now between the 56 and the 40. Could we potentially see a fight for the lead before green flag pit stops here, Matthew?
It'll be close. I don't think Foti will catch him before they pit, so he might do the little strategy, you know, pit a lap before Tate, or knowing Foti as well, man, he could push longer than everybody else. I think the times are going to even out here eventually before they pit.
I think they might do the same as Jonathan Cutlip who focused on here. Now up to P6 here is JP Phillips, all the way down now, unfortunately, to position number 8 here. Tyres definitely not on his side as the gap between Tyler Foti and Tate Lytle continues to shrink. Tyler Foti, I think, taking all he can get before green flag pit stops start here. As if you want to make this a 2-stopper, you have to make it at least 45 laps twice. That will take you to a theoretical lap 135. I don't think we can quite make this a 1-stopper. That would require you to get to the end of lap 67, and I don't think there's quite enough fuel in these virtual race trucks to make it 67 laps around Kansas Speedway. Tom Bourne does now continue to defend from Tommy Ryan. The side draft, as we've mentioned before, exceptionally strong at these bigger tracks. That's why I see Tom Bourne just hanging off of the driver's side door of Tommy Ryan just a bit. Not that that made much of a difference as Tom Bourne comes down to pit at the end of lap 43. Could this be an undercut strategy from the 61 to try and get some track position back? We'll have to wait and see. But Tate Lytle still continues to lead this race. Tommy Ryan there we're focusing on is in P3 with Justin Wadsworth company in position number 4. Just behind him, Jonathan Cutlip has emerged into the top 5 for the first time tonight, courtesy of that Tom Bourne pit stop. Of course, the 2023B Elite Truck Series champion knows his way around this vehicle, knows his way around this track, and I'm sure truck number 5 is not done yet here at the Kansas 245 laps in, which means that everyone who hasn't stayed out is most definitely safe to make this a 2-stopper, and I don't think Tom Bourne would have been safe as well, but definitely an undercut strategy coming out of the 61 camp. We'll see if there are any takers on pit road this time by, as the pit window for a 2-stop is now very much open here. But I don't think there are any takers in the top 2 of Tate Lytle and Tyler Foti. Tommy Ryan and Justin Wadsworth also both elect to stay out, as does 5th place Jonathan Cutlip. So Mathieu Weeks, as the laps begin to wind down, are we going to have to start to look for someone like Tom Bourne, who is up at the front, but now will surely begin to claw his way back as a result of the undercut, as I think we just heard a call from Tate Lytle that he's going to be pitting this time?
Yeah, I think Tom Bourne could take the lead over with the undercut. It's a lot faster. I think they're like over a second faster right now too. So if Tate and Foti stay out until they run out, then yeah, he would take over the lead, and then he'll flip, you know, late in that run as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we heard JP Phillips as well call out he's coming down pit road as well. So it wasn't Tate's voice that I heard. Someone who sounds a bit like Tate Lytle called out that he was coming down pit road, but the gap continuing to come down now. But it's sort of stabilised around the 3.5, 4/10 of a second mark as Tate Lytle continues to lead this race here at Kansas Speedway. I think, as you mentioned, Matthew, if these drivers continue to stay out, Tom Bourne will inherit the race lead eventually and by quite some distance. But the other side of that coin is Tate Lytle, Tyler Foti, Justin Wadsworth. All these drivers will have far, far better tyres come the end of that run, and they will mow down the 61. So that is the sort of game you play, potentially gambling on what cautions will arrive and when, if there'll be any. I mean, these first nearly 50 laps have indicated that this could be quite a clean and green race, but we know one yellow flag can change all of that. You just see Ryan Campbell at the bottom of your picture just coming down pit road. This is your fight now between Justin Wadsworth and Jeff Ryan. Wadsworth has taken over position number 3 as Jonathan Cutlip has begun to enter the fray. And speaking of entering the fray, we've got a fight now for the lead, Tate Lytle and Tyler Foti.
You know, Foti's really rolling that middle. Out of all the races I've raced here at Kansas, I've really never seen anyone run the middle, you know, like they're doing tonight. It's usually you're running the fence or you're running the white line around the corner, you know, around the corners.
Definitely interesting how it all plays out here at Kansas, but that is the gift of multi-groove racing. You can truly do anything, and if you're good enough, you can make it work. But we're now about to tick off lap number 50.
Yeah, they're going to pit right here
time,
too.
But
So
they're just coming down this time. That was definitely Tate's voice I heard in
both of
my
them. So
ear. I mean, both of them. So we'll see. Of course, nailing pit entry is half the fight. When green flag pit stops do arrive, and they've almost hit each other. Oh dear, oh dear. Tate Lytle though was on pole, so he'll have the first pit stop. Tyler Foti might have to back it down just a bit. Otherwise he's going to right rear him. There we go, they've gone single file now. Here comes Michael.
They got a car to their inside though.
Daniel Gore is right there. Might be blocking the 56 on what I think has just come out of a pit stall. Oh dear, oh dear. Tate Lytle does come in though. Stops in his pit box nicely. As does Justin Wadsworth. And now
That might
see the race off pit road here, Matthew.
Yeah, that might have hurt Foti right there. I mean, not Foti, but Tate. He had a really he play a game with Daniel Gore trying to get his dog. Oh, never mind, he's good. I thought he had to lift a little bit. Thought they were playing little mind games with each other without knowing right there.
Well, despite rear-ending Barney the pace car driver, or Fred the pace car driver, Tyler Foti, Tate Lytle won the race out of the pit lane. He's not won the race out of pit exit though. Tyler Foti with an instinctive move there gets the position on Tate Lytle, caught the 56 sleeping there on the pit exit. As here comes the 66 now. We're 3 abreast here coming through turns 3 and 4. Foti does get clear of the 56. That was genius really from the 40. That reminds me of a Sebastian Vettel type move for any Formula 1 fans out there when he did that back in Shanghai. But 40 now into what would be a net lead here as JP Phillips. Actually, JP Phillips is also pitted, so this is your current racing order here with Tyler Foti ahead of Tate Lytle, with JP Phillips in P2 and Tom Bourne 8.5 seconds out in front. But of course, Tom Bourne pitted about 10 laps ago, which is why the gap is so big. And you'll have to imagine that the likes of JP Phillips, Tyler Foti, Tate Lytle will begin to reel in the 61 sooner rather than later. They're just working past the lap truck there of the 46 of Carl Hanshaw. JP Phillips though still leads this train and is not being eaten up like we might have potentially predicted. He did come in a few laps earlier than the trio running just behind him there, but not by a few laps. So I think if JP can save his tyres, he could definitely become somewhat of an important piece of this race, as he was in the early stages. Of course, it's just 6 laps to go until the end of stage number 2, and Tom Bourne, all things remaining as they stand, you know, they're not reeling him in massively. Still 8 seconds between himself and JP Phillips. He should collect 10 stage points and of course a playoff point for his troubles as well. So Matthew, I look at the way that the second stage has played out in terms of how early Tom Bourne came in. Is this a case of Tom Bourne potentially undercutting this as much as possible for the sake of just getting stage points and potentially putting himself in position to claim the playoff point that he potentially wouldn't have got from winning the third and final stage and winning the race?
That, and I think the early strat might come into play late in the race. He thinks if he can build a big enough gap, possibly, you know, before he has to pit the last time, that he's going to even have a bigger lead for the last run there to try to win the race that way.
Definitely isn't a terrible call, I must say. And it looks to be... I mean, it's definitely too early to tell in terms of the end of the race, but I think if you take the raw gap, and it's not really shrinking at all, it's still over 8 seconds. So I definitely think this could be something, potentially the beginning of something brilliant here from Tom Bourne in terms of strategy here. the likes of JP Phillips, Tyler Foote, Justin Wadsworth, Tate Lytle, they are not closing in at the rate that I think anyone really predicted them to. They could be hyper saving the tyres, and then potentially you could start reeling him in by multiple tenths a lap each and every lap later in the run. That could be potentially what could go down, but I mean, we're still looking here at over 8 seconds of a gap. Here comes Justin Wadsworth now on Tyler Foote here. Lake Norman teammates switching positions. That's the reigning Cup Series champion, Justin Wadsworth. He's up into the podium places, and will now look for the move on JP Phillips. Now, I think I might have been right in that potentially the likes of Foote and Lytle and Ryan are potentially hanging back a bit. Justin Wadsworth does not look to be going as easy. Once Phillips is potentially passed by Justin Wadsworth, could we potentially see the 6 truck be the first to really start to eat into that gap between himself and the 61?
Yeah, but I think once he gets these stage points, he's gonna back down and start saving a little bit. I think Wadsworth actually raced more points in the trucks this season, so he's just trying to capitalize on these points right here, and then probably go back to saving. But the 10 lap pressure tires that they got, it's really about the flip, and all these guys are really gonna start catching Tom Bourne.
Definitely will look that way, and I mean, I look at the way the gap begins to tumble down now, so I think everyone has started to put the burners on in this pack, all the way from Justin Wadsworth there back to even the likes of Jeff Green as well in P9 there. They're all packed up together here from 2nd down to 9th, but now the gap already less than 7 seconds here. We take Justin Wadsworth's last lap, 32.7 to a 32.2, so half a second there between Justin Wadsworth and Tom Bourne, as Jesse Rasimas is currently in the process of unlapping himself. That will definitely halt the progress of the 61 somewhat, and so will a yellow flag just at the end of the stage, and that is going to infuriate the 61. As here's a replay of what happened. It's Dustin Dewar and Jeff Ryan, and that is a big right rear to the back of the 32. And heavy impacts of both those cars, the 32 and the 3. It's almost Harrison Talon and Sam Batwell getting involved there. They both managed to dart either side of Jeff Ryan. Bit of a silly accident to have, I feel like, when you're 60 laps into a green flag run for your first yellow of the night. We'll show analysis, Matthew. Oh, he's just gone to actually do some race control stuff. I forgot he's doing race control as well, but I don't know, actually. Definitely, I don't know, Matthew. That looks to me like potentially a bit of netcode between Jeff Ryan and Dustin Dewar there as we look from the overhead angle.
Yeah, I'm going with that too. It just doesn't look bad, and Chad, said we need to be a little bit more lenient. That just kind of looked like a little racing deal that just kind of came together. I mean, no one really did move more than the other right there, and to be honest, they really didn't touch.
Yeah, they definitely didn't make physical contact. You see Tom Bourne does come down pit road. Justin Wadsworth is going to stay out, as is Tyler Foote as well, as is Tate Lytle. So this is going to really annoy Tom Bourne, as what potentially could have been the beginnings of a genius strategy has now somewhat come undone here. But I will say, apart from Wadsworth, Foote and Tate Lytle, there aren't many cars that have elected to stay out. 7 trucks have elected to stay out. The rest have come in. So that's Justin Wadsworth, Tyler Foote, Tate Lytle, Chris Wright, Connie McCorkle, Daniel Gore, and Austin Inabnet. But Tom Bourne has won the race off pit road, so he will come out 8th on the racetrack, but with the freshest tyres of the lot. We'll see what unfolds when the green flag flies here at Kansas. We're going to take a quick break, though. We'll be back on the Elite Racing Network for all the action after this yellow. Don't go anywhere.
3 years of sellout crowds, 3 years of edge-of-your-seat action, 3 years of jaw-dropping finishes. Worldwide Technology Raceway has rocked the world of NASCAR, and now NASCAR is giving us another reason to celebrate. The 2025 NASCAR Cup Series Championship Playoffs are coming Sunday, September 7th, 2025. Just when you thought the racing couldn't get any more intense, now every single lap matters. One wrong move could be the difference between elimination and being crowned the king. The Enjoy Illinois 300, the Confluence Music Festival, the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs, and for the first time in 15 years, the NASCAR Xfinity Series on Saturday, September 6th. Don't be on the outside looking in. See history being made in your own backyard. Go to www.raceway.com for the hottest ticket of the year.
Welcome back to live coverage of round number 8 of the 2025 Juicy Spider Elite Racing League Truck Series. We're back for the Kansas 200 at Kansas Speedway. Thanks, of course, to Worldwide Technology Raceway for being a premier partner for Elite Racing League all this time. There was a quick advert there for the Enjoy Illinois 300 this September for the NASCAR Cup Series and the NASCAR Xfinity Series that will be on there later this year. For the playoffs, of course, for the first time in the track's history, but Justin Wadsworth and Tyler Foote will now make up the front row for the first time tonight. Chris Wright, also with Lake Norman, is up in P4, with Pro Edge breaking up the Lake Norman monotony for Pro Edge in position number 3. Justin Wadsworth will have control of the restart this time by, but everyone from 8th on back, that's Tom Bourne, has got fresher tyres than these 7 in front, and it's a good start for Justin Wadsworth. Tyler Foote somewhat sleeping there on the restart as the Waste Management 6 has flown off into the lead there by nearly 2 tenths, and Tate Lighter will look to take P2 straight away from the 40. And here comes as well Cody McCorkle, championship leader, winner at Richmond, looking to continue to further boost his campaign in this year's Truck Series as we're 3 abreast further towards the back of the pack. Here comes Tom Bourne on far fresher tyres, flying towards the front. Here is the 61 here. 3 abreast underneath both Cody McCorkle and Chris Wright. There still 3 wide here as Daniel Gore, Tommy Ryan and Jonathan Cutlip run 3 wide. More 3 wide action further behind there. That's Joe Francis, Austin and Abnett. And Jeff Green almost looking 4 wide there with Seth Rawls, Michael Harsack and the 51 of Harrison Talon. Here comes Tate Lighter looking for the lead from Justin Wadsworth. Less than a tenth separating that particular pair up at the front. But here comes Tom Bourne ripping the wall, and he's going to take back the lead with absolutely no resistance whatsoever put up by anyone else. Tom Bourne back to the front here at Kansas, and what might have looked like strategy call gone wrong there courtesy of that yellow might have actually been spelling disaster for the top 7 that didn't take tyres, as Tom Bourne is going to fly out into the lead. He's already a quarter of a second in front, as here comes Josh Adams now at bottom of 3. Jonathan Cutlip as well looking to get past Justin Wadsworth. Was fresh tyres the call here, Matthew, do you think?
With how this race looked earlier in the race, it looked like it was going to be a green flag run. Yeah, I think those guys should have pitted and put tires on. Now those guys that stayed out are hoping they go 10 laps and a caution comes out so they can put some tires on.
Definitely a bit of a cat and mouse game now on strategy, and of course we know cautions breed cautions, and when you're packed up 3-4 wide like this, anything can and often does go wrong. Harrison Talon currently in the middle of 3 wide between Cody McCorkle and Joe Francis, the DoorDash 51, trying to dash towards the front here. Sam Boutwell as well, almost caught middle 4 there, as Cody McCorkle and Seth Rawls enact somewhat of a shifty sport sandwich for the Icy Fog 47 there for South Shore Racing. Michael Harsack looking for a move, but no dice when there's already 3 cars spread eagle across the front here, as Tom Bourne now 3 tenths in front of Josh Adams, who has now taken P2 away. Jeff Ryan up to P3, Jonathan Cutlip up into 4th. Jay Connor emerges into the top 5 for the first time tonight, and Gavin Higgins now down to 6th as the Lake Norman trucks and Pro Edge trucks that all elected to stay out on that particular caution begin to tumble down the order. Tyler Foote is already out the top 10. JP Phillips likely next on the chopping block, as he actually makes a move past Tate Lighter and now to the door of Justin Wadsworth. Harrison Talon making some good progress. He's in P11, but still 3 wide action further back. We look at how hard these guys are racing and the moves they're trying to make. Is the probability of a caution beginning to ramp up here? Early stages of this restart, as these drivers that of course stayed out, those 7 drivers that we mentioned, want a quick yellow to essentially reverse what's happened on that last yellow. Could their prayers be answered with how they're racing?
Yeah, they could if you don't get caught in that wreck. It's so hard. It's always the scariest thing when people are on different tire strategies, because once the tires get hot and then they cool and then they get hot again, man, you really suffer big time.
definitely do. Especially at such an abrasive surface like that. Is it Kansas Speedway? As Jeff Green and JP Phillips very much introducing each other there, as Jeff Green and JP Phillips with a vicious door bang off of turn 4, but no harm, no foul for the pair of those drivers there as the 38 continues to rip the fence here. Looks for a move on Gavin Higgins and on Jonathan Cutlip here. As the 20 now chops up in front of the 34, no dice there for JP Phillips to perform a crossover move. Jonathan Cutlip running low, but a train of 4 trucks up above him could spell disaster for the 5, as he might drop a couple spots for his troubles further up the field here. Tom Bourne still clinging onto the lead. We saw the gap between himself and Josh Adams go to essentially a dead heat there. As little as 300ths I saw briefly on the ticker, but Tommy Ryan now will work his way around the Juicy Spider Studios truck up into P2 and potentially looking for the lead here is Tommy Ryan to the inside of Tom Bourne. How much detriment do you think this is going to cause them? Mathieu Weeks is obviously they have the tire advantage, but if they continue to fight like this, you know, Tom Bourne having to run the wall to defend from Tommy Ryan, is that going to start to potentially work against that advantage and potentially level things out for those 7 that did stay out and, you know, are on worse time as we stand?
Maybe some guys. I just think the tire differences really won't come into play with those guys. Maybe some guys probably will burn their stuff a little more. I'll be more worried about that 5 truck because he drove all the way to the second and then he just started letting everybody go.
And definitely someone to be worried about. Jonathan Cutlip is a factor at every single race he runs. One of the best drivers in at least someone consider him the best on raw speed. One of the few drivers to boast an I rating of over 6,000, of course, and is actively working towards eventually making the Coke Series. We know how talented he is. We know how well he can do. On any track in any car, he's always a factor, so no doubt that him running slowly, letting people pass, it's all a method. There's a method to the madness with Jonathan Cutlip. He knows how to nurse a set of tyres home, and there's still 60 laps to go in this race. We know how good he is at Kansas. Don't be surprised to see him fly back up towards the back of the pack with a fresh set of boots before long. But further back here, Harrison Talon and Joe Francis continue to jockey there for position number 9 here. Michael Harsack with the best seat in the house there, but Harrison Talon does stick the move on the numbers by Joe Machine. Leighton Norgard with a big swing out to the inside of the 41 there of Frank Foti there of Leighton Norman Motorsports. Leighton trying to get the move done again. Of course, was involved in an incident earlier on in the race with Frank Foti's Leighton Norman teammate Austin Anapit in the 60, but Leighton Norgard working his way back up to P14 with a solid run so far at his home track. Of course, he is from Kansas City, Missouri, and of course lives quite close to Kansas City, Kansas. As you see Jay Connor leading this particular pack here ahead of JP Phillips and Jeff Green here, 4th, 5th and 6th. Those 3 cars are but some ways away from the leading trio of Tom Bourne, Tommy Ryan and Joshua Adams. As you see Gavin Higgins to the inside of Jeff Green looking for a move back up to P6. Jonathan Cutlip just at the back of your picture. We wonder if he's going to start incisively making his way forward, but you look at how many laps you have to go. Everyone does still have to pit on fuel mileage. Who's kind of in the catbird seat at the minute, Matthew? Is it someone like Tom Bourne, or are we looking towards someone like maybe Tate Light or Tyler Foote who could potentially end up on the right side of this tyre strategy if potentially yellows and things go their way? But as things stand, who's got the best chance so far of taking the checkered flag here?
I think Tom Bourne is it. Once you get to these races, towards the end of these races, you want to be up front, even with 1 green flag stop, because the lead he has on Foti and Tate and John, if it stays like this, he has a little gap right there to play with. He can stretch maybe a lap or 2 and still keep the lead after the pit cycle. So I think Tom Bourne's in a perfect spot to win this race if it goes green.
I would definitely look to agree as he leads by 0.4 of a second over Tommy Ryan. To contextualise there, obviously we've mentioned those 7 drivers that stayed out. Justin Wadsworth, Tate Lytle and company. They are sitting. Justin Wadsworth is leading those drivers. He's in 19th, 7.5 seconds back. So, like you mentioned, Matthew, they have that gap to play with, essentially. They have that gap to exploit, and potentially a good undercut from Tom Bourne, from Tommy Ryan. Any one of these guys that stayed out, and it could really spell trouble for any of those trucks that stayed out. We could see gaps of upwards of 15 seconds potentially if these guys play their cards right. Equally, things go wrong, see a yellow at an inopportune time that could even things out, could even swing the pendulum the other way to the favour of the guys like Justin Wadsworth, Tyler Foti, Tate Lytle, who did elect to stay out. And, you know, right now, with the way we're running, looks like the complete wrong decision, but things can change on a dime in motor racing. They know that as well as anyone. That's why they've won as many races and as many titles as they have won. Between them, I think they share about 12 elite championships, so they know what they're doing. So don't be surprised to see them with one yellow at an inopportune time, with one change variable. They could be easily back in this race, so don't count them out. Further back up the pecking order here, Leighton Norgard looking for a move on Sam Boutwell. As we mentioned, he's been involved earlier in an incident, so he's doing very well to get back up towards the front of the field here as he does get past the 47 of, well, that's not the 47, that's the 30 of Connor Thompson just behind him. The 47 still up the road from the 12. There's Joe Francis, looks to fend off Michael Harsack there. That's your fight for P11. As here comes Seth Rawls with a big move to the inside of Harrison Talon. Great exit speed from the 25, could even clear the 51 by corner entry, and he does. P9 there for Seth Rawls for Shift Esports. Shift Esports now has a truck back in the top 10 as Harrison Talon falls back one spot, but still that pack continues to pull away. Jay Connor in P4 down to Gavin Higgins in P8, beginning to walk away as such from the pack behind him of Seth Rawls and company. But still, it's that leading trio up front, as you see there. Tom Bourne leading by 3/10 over Ryan, 8/10 over Adams, but nearly 3 seconds ahead of Jay Connor, Matthew.
Yeah, I think Tommy Ryan sitting there chipping into that lead little by little. I'm just wondering if Tom Bourne's going to do what he did that first run and pit early and then get that big lead if other people stay out long.
It could definitely look that way. I mean, Tom Bourne pitted, I want to say, about lap 42, 43. We're coming to 51 to go this time by, so we do start to get to that window somewhat. If we see another hyper-aggressive undercut out of Tom Bourne, it comes off. No yellows to bother him. We could see him win this race by an absolute mile. But, of course, we'll have to wait and see. Anyone, Tommy Ryan, Josh Adams, Jay Connor, Jonathan Cutlip, JP Phillips, any one of these guys, they can still be a factor. 51 laps, now 50 laps as we come to the stripe is a long, long time at a track like Kansas. So you never know what could happen, what could go wrong, what could go right for certain drivers. But as things stand, not to cast the commentator's curse, but as things stand, so far Tom Bourne is in the best seat in the house. He has the tyre advantage. He is many seconds out in front of everyone who's on a different strategy than him. Looks to have the best pace over the long run of most of the drivers that are in and around his position, especially the likes of Tommy Ryan and Josh Adams, who are really struggling to eat into that gap there as you see Tom Bourne begin to pull away to nearly half a second here. I think as we run, provided no catastrophes and no calamities, this is Tom Bourne's race to lose. But of course, if things do go wrong, he has got stiff competition to pounce on it. You know, multi-time champions, multi-time race winners. They know how to capitalize on situations like these, and you give them an inch and they'll take a mile. So you have to fight them hard. But further back in the pack, here's a fight between Connor Thompson and Sam Boutwell. As Sam Boutwell has relinquished that position to the 30 just a little while ago. Leighton Norgard as well does get past Neil Rutt. He's up into P13 there now, looking towards the back of Harrison Talon's Toyota there in position number 12. Leighton Norgard looking to have a pace advantage over most of the trucks around him as Harrison Talon has begun to slip down the field somewhat. Obviously lost the position to Seth Rawls, has now recently been overtaken by Joe Francis and Michael Harsack. So Harrison Talon beginning to struggle a little bit here relative to those around him. Leighton Norgard now going towards the middle lane here. We'll have superior exit speed coming off the top of the hill here. We'll have the slipstream as well through the oval. We'll see if he can get to the right rear going into turn 1. Not quite. And again, elects to run the highest side, but just as quickly as he was P8, I think this is the point, Matthew, where Jonathan Cutlip has just turned on the burners a bit, because he's gone from 8th to 4th without any of us even noticing up in the commentary box. And I think this is the sort of time where if I'm Josh Adams, I'm Tommy Ryan, I'm Tom Bourne, I'm wary of that fluorescent yellow number 5 truck. We know how quick the driver behind the wheel is. We'll see if he can start punching in some good lap times.
Yeah, I agree with you there, but I think John just gave up too much time at the start of this run. That's a lot of time to make up, plus the green flag stop if they get there. It's just going to be tough, I think.
Definitely could be a tricky situation for Jonathan Cutlip. Making up 3.5 seconds at a track like this in a car like this, not easy, and we've seen it. Still, the gap remains at about 3.5 seconds, so we'll have a look quickly. 32.859 his last lap, 32.941 Tom Ward, so not even a tenth of a second gained for Jonathan Cutlip last lap, so that will be nowhere near enough, really, over the course of these 44 laps, unless he does pull the undercut here. Makes up a tenth of lap, he could get it done. Maybe 10 laps to go. He could start to get to the back of Tom Bourne, but of course he has to sustain that pace without wearing his tyres too much. So again, it's that cat and mouse game. Still, John Cutlip struggles really to get to the back of Tom Bourne in terms of really substantially getting into that gap. But we'll see who blinks first out of this top 4, because I think this top 4 is now where we're looking in terms of strategy. Who blinks first out of this leading quartet here? We know Tom Bourne not afraid of an aggressive undercut here. That is why he was in the lead in the first place. Brilliant strategy call from 61. Tommy Ryan and Josh Adams, beneficiaries of the caution, made the right call. That's why they're up there with him. John Cutlip as well, same reason, but of course he's 3 seconds back. Starting to eat into that gap quite nicely though, to be fair to him, so we'll see if he pulls the undercut and does what Tom Bourne did earlier in the race. But this is now sort of a nervy point in proceedings for these top 4 drivers, where they're all sort of looking at each other, and they begin to look at each other, see who blinks first, and I think, Matthew, when one of these 4 come in, the other 3 will immediately react, because otherwise if you let's say John Cutlip pits now, and these front 3 let him get 5-10 laps on a set of tyres before they come in, it'll be insurmountable. John Cutlip will be way too far out in front for the tyres to matter then at that point.
Yeah, 100%, because if you remember right, I think Tom Bourne had, what, a 7-second lead after that first run when he undercut everybody? So you really got to remember that. So the top 3 guys need to pay attention. If Cutlip pits, you want to literally pit the lap after him. You don't want him to have that big advantage on you.
Yeah, definitely, but I think that is where track position becomes so important, especially when you have a gap like they do of, north of 3 seconds for Tom Bourne. It's, you have that luxury of being able to react, and it's on Jonathan Cutlip really to make the move. And I think what Jonathan Cutlip, if I'm Jonathan Cutlip, I'm trying to go long, and I'm going as long as I can, and I'm just doing whatever the front 3 do not do. If they pick this lap, I'm going long. Equally though, I think these front 3, again, if I'm anyone of these front 3, I think I'm going long to prevent Jonathan Cutlip from having that luxury of being able to go long. But that's the cat and mouse game you play. You want to essentially do what your rival does not do. Because if you do the same thing, you'll just end up behind them if you're already behind them to begin with. But less than 40 to go on lap 95 here of 134 here at the Kansas 200. Still is Tom Bourne leading by nearly half a second over Tommy Ryan and Josh Adams for Shift Esports there. But Pro Edge's John Cutlip begins to nibble into that gap bit by bit by bit. He was sort of unleashed there as he made his way past the trucks that were in the pack with him. The likes of Jay Connor, Gavin Higgins, Seth Rawls, JP Phillips. He flew past all that lot, up into P4 in the blink of an eye, but now has got a big gap to make up as he's running the wall, being aggressive here, trying to make up as much time as he can here before it's too late. We know there's a certain amount of time you need to make up each lap on average to make that gap work. He needs to make just under a tenth a lap, which we'll look at his last lap time. Jonathan Cutlip 32.89, 33.06 for Tom Bourne, so he's doing more than that. So pace looks good for Jonathan Cutlip, but we'll see if he can hold on to that pace. As see Justin Wadsworth now has come in, as has Connor Thompson-Gardner there in the 30. Just saw at the bottom of your picture, Tom Bourne is electing to stay out this time by, as Dustin Dewar there on a fresh set of boots is going to look to unlap himself there in the JD's Hilltop Salvage number 32 there. Tate Lytle. We remember one of those 7 drivers that came in alongside Justin Wadsworth for fresh tyres, or stayed out rather, electing for old tyres. He now comes in at lap 98, so you'd imagine fuel will force drivers within the next sort of 10 laps or so, I'd say at a maximum, for the likes of Tom Bourne, Tommy Ryan, everyone who pitted apart from those 7, to then come in for a fresh dash of fuel and a fresh set of tyres. But of course, Matthew, again, like we mentioned with Tom Bourne's pit stop earlier in the race, you have to be wary of the advantage that this small group could get from this big undercut that they're essentially being forced to do. If you're someone like Tom Bourne who's leading the race so convincingly, but you've seen that these drivers have started to pit, you don't want the same thing that you did to them happening to you. Are you looking at pitting within the next couple of laps or so?
Knowing how much of a gap I gained from the first run, I'm going to stretch this probably 5 or 6 laps. That way they just get a little bit closer, because he had a big enough gap to really play with those guys back there. I think John, with John up there with the same tires, that was like probably a 2-lap difference. These guys that had stayed out under that caution, that's probably about a 6 to 8 lap difference. You could probably stay out.
Yeah, definitely. But I do think we will start to see these leaders come by this time by, as Tom Bourne is running the low side. And he is coming in, as is Tommy Ryan, as is Josh Adams. This is big for the race lead here. Jonathan Cutlip in that big fluorescent green truck. He is staying out, as is Jay Connor, Gavin Higgins, Seth Rawls, Joe Francis, Jeff Green, Leighton Norgard, Hossack, Voti Talon, all in the top 10 here. But this is your leading trio on the track here. Tom Bourne, Tommy Ryan, Josh Adams. They have all elected to come in at the end of lap 100. Jonathan Cutlip has just called over the radio on all teams pitting this lap, so we know the 5 is coming in at the end of this lap. He has reacted to Tom Bourne, Tommy Ryan and Josh Adams so that they do not inherit a big gap once Cutlip comes out of the pits here. So Jonathan Cutlip, damage limitation now, because these guys will gain, I would say, around a second on their outlap while Cutlip is sat in the pits here. Jay Connor now leads. He's our 6th different leader tonight. Gavin Higgins 2/10 behind him, but this is now, I would say, a big turning point in the race. If we have no yellows, this becomes a big strategy race, Matthew.
Oh yeah, 100%. I bet these guys that stayed out on that last caution are just wishing they actually took tires, because it just fell out of the hand. Those, especially Tate and Voti, they were really in the catbird seat to race for the win in this.
Definitely, and of course things can change on a dime, but Tyler Voti, Justin Wadsworth, Taylor, all those guys that came, or stayed out rather, picking themselves no doubt here. As we've had a particularly clean race. Absolute props to everyone involved here. Let's not make these last 30 laps absolute carnage. Have I jinxed it? What's happened?
3 and 4, someone just got ran over. That was, I think Daniel Gore got ran over. What a save.
Oh no. We saved it. The Nismo 21 looks to be drivable. Oh, I think that's one of the Yanceys involved. I think that's Scotty Yancey in the Micro Center 54. Oh dear, what a save though. Woo-hoo. Jonathan Cutlip and Justin Wadsworth and Taylor were getting the scare of a lifetime, but Daniel Gore, beautiful save there.
And that's the difference between tires. Them new tires, man, you go so much faster through the corners than other guys on the old tires.
Definitely, as here is now you fight for the lead. This is a KOR Motorsports 1-2 here actually, as Jay Connor leads the way here, just in front of Gavin Higgins. There's Seth Rawls there in 3rd place, but between them is Tommy Ryan, who is not in 3rd place. He's a lap down, unlapping himself, and that is why you see him absolutely flying past, like he's got a V12 in the front of that thing. As he... Oh, Gavin! Oh,
no!
Oh, dear. It's drivable, I think.
Okay, at least it wasn't that bad.
I thought he was going to slam the barrels. I thought it was all over. I think that's drivable. Bit front left damage. I think that's drivable, and I just hope he ain't got a speeding penalty. He's just... Oh, as it comes over the apron and settles the truck, he's dropped it. I think that might be a speeding penalty and all, you know. Youch. That is tough luck for Gavin Higgins. Hopefully not a speeding penalty. Actually, check iRacing.
Yeah, I think him
No
slowing
black
down enough
flag.
in the wall saved him.
Yeah, I think so too. Jay Connor, though, does still lead the race by half a second over Seth Rawls. We're just waiting now, I imagine, for only a couple more laps. I would say no further than lap 110, really, for these drivers to now come in. But everyone in the top 10 here, from Jay Connor down to Chris Wright, still yet to pit, and there's nearly a lap between them all. So definitely going to start seeing some drivers emerge towards the front here. Tommy Ryan, actually, in the 66 has pitted. There comes as well Tom Bourne. So actually, I think that's the 81 of Josh Adams who has pitted. So actually, the leading quartet has switched around somewhat. Tom Bourne was leading the race for ages. He's now down to position number 3 net, essentially, as Tommy Ryan and Josh Adams has taken that essentially net lead away from Tom Bourne here, as they both trail 28 seconds behind Jay Connor and Seth Rawls, who still are insistent on staying out so far. Joe France, as you see on the left of your screen, has come in. There's your race leader, Jay Connor, getting some laps ahead for KOL Motorsports tonight.
Yeah, these guys are just hoping for a caution.
That is all they're hoping for, because then that'll then turn the tide in their favour. They'll get some fresh boots on. And Tate Lytle just, I assume you heard that as well. If someone makes photo, this will make it a lot better, says Tate Lytle. Oh, I'm not going to comment on that. It'll certainly shake things up.
Yeah, he wants these boys to get back to racing hard, man. But we want to keep this green like this. This is the kind of racing we like, the different strategies. And going back to Tom Bourne, I think he had a little mistake on pit road, because Tommy Ryan and both Adams jumped him on the exit of pit road.
Yeah, no, definitely. The different strategies making things super interesting. I think Jay Connor, who we're right on board with now, is going to come down pit road. Does not spin, unlike his unfortunate KOR teammate Gavin Higgins there. He gets it slowed down nicely, which means Seth Rawls is your 7th different leader tonight for this full distance race. A brilliant race these guys have put on. The strategy difference really has made things super duper duper interesting. Seth Rawls does eat a big mouthful of safer barrier. Don't do that too many times, Seth. He's 6 seconds out in front of Harrison Talon and Frank Foti. Sam Boutwell in P4 there, but there you see Jay Connor tumbling down the timing tower. Seth Rawls now comes in for Shifty Sports, gets that thing slowed down just about, pointing in the right direction, as Harrison Talon now leads a lap for, I believe, the first time in the Truck Series this season. So he's your 8th different leader tonight. Frank Foti, though, barely half a second behind the DoorDash machine, with Sam Boutwell in P3. Harrison Talon does call out on all teams. He is pitting this time, as Andrew Hardcastle will look to work his way cleanly past the DoorDash 51. Tyler Foti, or Frank Foti rather, father of Tyler Foti, will also pit this time. Harrison Talon does very well there. He's pointing in the right direction. Has he got dinged for speeding? He has not. According to my
close.
Racing. So good job, Harry, because I thought he was chalked there for a minute. But that is not everyone, as Sam Boutwell has also come out into the pit lane. So this is it. 22 laps to go here at Kansas Speedway, and this is your fight for the lead, as Tommy Ryan now leads by just a few tenths of a second over Joshua Adams. But now that the dust is all settled on the pit stop front, is this now you're fighting for the lead for the rest of the race, Matthew? Nothing really to interrupt these guys, unless of course the yellow comes out.
If it goes green, I think John might catch his guys. He had the lap fresher tires, and he's been better than a lot of these guys on the long run. So I think we're going to see those 3 guys, Tommy Ryan, Josh Adams, and Caleb, battle for the win. Unless Tom Bourne's been kind of sneaky good on the long run too. So so it could be a 4-car truck right here for a 4-car truck. I can't even speak. A 4-truck race for the win. Blah.
Well, it definitely looks that way. A 4-car truck for the lead here is currently a 2-car truck here for the lead here. Tom Bourne leads by 6. Oh no, he doesn't. I'm tripping over myself now. Tommy Ryan leads by 6 tenths over Josh Adams, the other blue and black truck in this race. Josh Adams just trailing by 6/10 over Tommy Ryan and Tom Bourne, just about within a second of Tommy Ryan. Jonathan Cutlip as well, sneaking in there to just north of 2 seconds there. It will very much become, I think, at the end of this race, something of a tyre-saving battle here, as Tommy Ryan still looks quite potent on the long run. We know how good Tom Bourne has been, of course. We know how good Jonathan Cutlip is on these long runs. Josh Adams as well. All these 4 trucks, I think, on any day, given the circumstances, did deserve to win this race. They've all done exceptionally well. Fact remains, these are essentially the last 4 trucks able to win. Tate Lytle, for as quick as he's been, just got on the wrong side of that strategy. Now finds himself 8 seconds rather behind Tommy Ryan, your race leader, with 18 laps to go here. So I think, as you mentioned, Matthew, this is very much a 4-car race for the lead, but Tom Bourne down to 1.7 seconds. That was only 1 second. So either a mistake has come out of the 61 camp, or he's been held up, or something's gone wrong. Have you seen anything that's gone wrong for the 61, or is this potentially just some super saving as the gap continues to grow? Nearly 2 seconds now between Tom Bourne and the race leader.
I haven't seen anything. I've noticed he's been running the outside more this run. I'm just wondering if they burn their tires off really quick when they come off a pit road, driving hard, and those top 3 guys are trying to stay close to each other.
Potentially, I mean, Tommy Ryan has already expanded the gap now to over a second nearly between himself and Adams here, as Bourne continues to fall further and further by the wayside here, although that gap has begun to stabilise here now, south of 2 seconds just about here. But Jonathan Cutlip has kept tabs with Ryan very nicely here at the end of this run here, as a lap truck just getting past Jonathan Cutlip there on presumably fresher tyres. That's the 84 there of Rob Mooney, as he will now work past the 61 of Tom Bourne, as Tommy Ryan now 8/10 in front of Josh Adams. So again, Josh Adams begins to claw back and that deficit somewhat. I do wonder if potentially these lap trucks we see Dustin Dool and Kyle Hanshaw in front of Tommy Ryan here, whether they're beginning to play a part holding up the 66. Obviously turbulent air could potentially, if they're running the same line, could be a factor tightening up the truck of the 66 less turn through the corner. Obviously never going to help.
Especially when, it looked like Dewar got in the wall there too.
Yeah. Might be forced to take the back markers middle 3 wide. I've done this before. It's definitely quite scary, but when your hand is forced, you've got less than half a second to your rival behind you. It's what you have to do, and he's executed that move very, very nicely. And of course, Hanshaw and Dewar giving ample space to the 66, not wanting to step on his toes at the end of proceedings here, with now just 14 laps to go here at Kansas, and it looks really to be the Tommy Ryan show at the minute, although Tom Bourne, Josh Adams, oh dear, contact there. So it's 84, I believe that is, of Rob Mooney getting into the door there of Joshua Adams. Josh Adams would be best pleased with that, as he's lost 0.2 of a second for his troubles. And you see Dave Huckleberry just up in the wall there, but does a good job of keeping it out of the wall. Well, not out of the wall, but out of harm's way here, as Jonathan Cutlip actually does get the move done on Tom Bourne, and Dave Huckleberry gets taken middle 3 here, as Bourne goes low, Cutlip goes high. These two continue to jockey for position here. Tom Bourne trying to pull a slider on the 5. Oh dear, Jonathan Cutlip won't be best pleased with that. Tom Bourne in the wall, Tom Bourne in the wall again. I heard
Knowing John, he is not going to be happy about that one.
He said something over all teams. I didn't quite hear it. Maybe it's best we didn't hear it.
Knowing John, he probably just said nice.
Yeah, but very nonchalant, isn't he, with his criticism?
He is.
But we ride on board now with the Pro's number 5. Like to see some tempers here between these two. I wonder if Cutlip's gonna try and give it back to Tom Bourne somewhat here. We'll see if that potentially can throw a spanner in the works vis-a-vis potentially a caution here late in the proceedings. But well, I think Tommy Ryan is definitely hoping not.
He might have got the wall a little bit, but I don't think John would be like that. He might corner him a little bit. Oh, never mind.
Oh, I don't know. He's a bit mad. He's angry.
Now he's going to send it in here, and he's going to give him the same medicine back.
Yeah. Maybe we'll decide a safer barrier. Well, I don't think Tom Bourne really has the purchase in that truck to fight that particular battle. And Jonathan Cutlip now safely, I'd like to think, up into position number 3 here. But we mentioned the gap coming down between Cutlip and Bourne and Tommy Ryan here. It was, you know, about a second and a half, but that particular spat between John Cutlip and Tom Bourne, you look at where they are now, 2.6 seconds. So I think that has somewhat buried their chances. I think just purely in terms of not having time now. They have the pace. Jonathan Cutlip most definitely has the pace, but and he'll claw back a few tenths of this at least. But he doesn't have the time now. We're 9 to go at the line, 2.5 seconds. Superman couldn't make that time up. So Tommy Ryan and Josh Adams, really, this is now a 2-horse race, and Tommy Ryan looks by far the quickest truck on the track right now. It is over a second nearly ahead of Joshua Adams, 32.94 versus a 32.92. Had the pace when he needed it, and Josh Adams has not been able to reply with much more than simply the same lap times. So not been able to claw back that gap much less than 9 tenths now, but again I think it's a case of not having enough time left to make that pace advantage count. So I think now, with 8 laps to go coming to the stripe, I think all that Tommy Ryan wants now, really anyone inside the top 3-4 want now, is just for this to go green to the end, secure a good finish, secure some good points. I think the only people that need this to go potentially with a caution now is anyone that's significantly off the lead.
I agree with it. Going back to what John and Tom Bourne did, Tom Bourne did right there, that lost a second, that little mishap they had. And I think John cut it down to like 1.7 when he was passing Tom Bourne before all that happened. So all that time lost really took him out of the chance to win this race, I think, because he was really cooking till that happened.
He was definitely cooking, and I think on a different night where that coming together doesn't happen, Cutlip could be sort of where Josh Adams is right now, and potentially with an outside shout of winning the race. But you'd have to say, with the pace that Tommy Ryan has shown at the right points in this race, I think even without that coming together, it's not guaranteed that Cutlip would even get to the back of Tommy Ryan, let alone be in a position to pass. I think the gap was just too big. I think it was the same sort of thing that we were looking at before the caution came out with Tom Bourne, 7.5, 8 seconds in front, insurmountable no matter how fresh your tyres are, with the time constraints given. So I think these guys came in at the right time. Tom Bourne definitely had the strategy. The caution did curtail him somewhat, but got back into the lead. I think everyone that took the right strategy has maximised their equipment, I think. But now it becomes a tyre-saving battle, and I think Tommy Ryan has won that battle. He's now up to 1.2 seconds in front of Josh Adams, just eking out that gap bit by bit, but not at any point overdriving. It's been clinical, it's been methodical from the 66, and I think with how spread out we are now, Matthew, I think caution's pretty much out the window, I'd say, in terms of probability. I think we're going to see Tommy Ryan, hopefully, fingers crossed, bring this one home for a win here.
Oh yeah, I agree with you 100%. He, unlike a lot of guys that's been running the outside the entire run, he's been the best to do it and save his tires. So, and that really helps. If you can do that, you're pretty much unbeatable here.
Definitely. I mean, I even look at the gap between himself and Jonathan Cutlip. We know how good John is here. Even Jonathan Cutlip hasn't been able to get close to Tommy Ryan here. There was a point it ebbed down to sort of 2.2, 2.3 seconds, but it's back up now to 2.6. Hard to say how much damage that mishap with Tom Bourne may have done to his tyres, but I mean, still, Jonathan Cutlip has somewhat stalled out in terms of advancing towards Tommy Ryan here, and I don't think he'll quite have enough time to get to Joshua Adams. So I think, all things remaining equal, this will be how we finish here. Tommy Ryan has been clinical, been methodical, calculated, and has made the moves when they've mattered. He's got by Josh Adams and Tom Bourne in one hit, coming out of the pits a couple of laps after that trio, as they were packed up together leading the race. As they came in, Seth Rawls and JP Phillips with a bit of contact there going into turn 3. As that
was close.
That was very, very close. 2 laps to go. That's not what Tommy Ryan needs to be thinking about, that is for sure, as those two fighting for P6 and P7, but now just over a mile ahead for Tommy Ryan before he reaches the white flag.
I
One
think
lap
what
to
really
go.
hurt John is that he got some damage from that too. So that really, like, no one really noticed that Kansas really depends on aerodynamics, and then just a slight bit of damage could really hurt your car.
Yeah, so a bit of passenger side damage, potentially to the right front, sort of wheel arch here, aero damage can absolutely cripple your advances. That's why that gap has sort of stagnated. Even with fresher tyres for Jonathan Cutlip, nothing he can really do. He's very much helpless, but riding on board with race leader Tommy Ryan for unacceptable racing in the number 66 into 3 and 4 for the final time. It's been an endurance, not a sprint for many of these drivers. Only one caution flag right in the middle of the race to end the second stage. Tommy Ryan survives the endurance here, saves tyres to best, and is going to win the Kansas 200 here at Kansas at round 8 of the Juicy Spider Truck Series. And he will win by a second and a half over Josh Adams. Jonathan Cutlip will round out the podium. Tom Bourne, a solid top 4 finish there. Tate Lytle in 5th. Seth Rules there in P6. Jay Connor 7th. JP Phillips 8th. Jeff Green 9th. And Joe Francis rounding out the top 10. But that was a nice, clean, green race. They certainly made your life easy, Mathieu Weeks, in terms of race control. And I'd say we have a deserving winner in Tommy Ryan.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I guess that Xfinity race Saturday night woke everybody up.
Definitely looks to be the cases. Burnouts now for the Northern Equipment number 66 of Tommy Ryan. It is your official race classification for the Kansas 200 here at Kansas. Tommy Ryan wins by 1.468 seconds over Josh Adams for Shift Esports in second place. Pro Edge's Jonathan Cutlip rounds out the podium. Tom Bourne, Tate Lytle 4th and 5th. Seth Rawls, Jay Connor, JP Phillips, Jeff Green and Joe Francis your top 10. As we had already mentioned, Tyler Fote in the 40 in an uncharacteristic P11. Justin Wadsworth, his teammate, just behind in P12. Leighton Norgard comes back from an incident earlier on. He finishes 13th. Gavin Higgins finishes in P14. Connor Thompson for Shift rounds out the top 15. Michael Harsack for Covered Bridge Racing is in 16th. Harrison Talon is in 17th. Frank Fote for Lake Norman in 18th. Chris Wright for Lake Norman Motorsports is in 19th with Cody McCall for Shift. Was the championship leader at the beginning of this race. Hard to imagine he'll be keeping that lead with a P20 finish tonight. Jess Story, RK Motorsports, finishes 21st with South Shore Sam Boutwell in 22nd. Brent Jones, Faber Motorsports, is 23rd. Austin Anapnet and Tyler Dixon rounding out the top 25 with Jesse Rasimas and Rob Moody 26th and 27th rounding off your lead lap trucks. Dustin Dewar, Scotty Yancey, Gerald Campbell rounding out the top 30 with Caleb Pacuma and Andrew Hardcastle finishing 1 lap down. Kyle Hanshaw finished 2 laps down along with Dylan Javier, with David Huckleberry 3 laps down, Ryan Campbell 4 laps down, and Mitch Javier 6 laps down with Neil Rutt, Daniel Gore, Shay Mitchell, Jeff Ryan, Aaron Yancey and Vincent Isabella all unfortunately failing to see the checkered flag. That is it so far for our post-race coverage. We'll be back for more after a quick advertisement break. We'll be back to speak to the top 3 of Jonathan Cutlip, Josh Adams and Tommy Ryan just after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Elite Racing Network for post-race coverage of round number 8 of the 2025 Juicy Spider Truck Series here in the Elite Racing League. The Kansas 200, of course, won by the 66 of Tommy Ryan here after 134 clean green laps. Only one caution flag to split the race straight down the middle here. And we're going to start off with some post-race interviews, starting with third place finisher, bronze medalist Jonathan Cutlett for Pro Edge Racing now joins me up in the commentary box. A low-key affair for you at the start of the race, but you quickly made your presence known coming up through the field, got on the right side of strategy. But I think that mishap that we saw later on in the running with Tom Bourne kind of put paid to your chances to win. But how would you rate your night overall, John?
Yeah, we had a pretty fun night. I had no idea what I was doing in qualifying. I just went out there and ran 2 laps, and it wasn't very good. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to go back to the drawing board on that one. But yeah, after about 20 laps, we were just lights out. We were running lap times about a tenth to 3/10 quicker than the field, and just trying to make my way up through the field. You know, slowly but surely, and keeping all 4 fenders on it. But yeah, I don't know. Like, after the pit stop, we had some people start to crash in front of us, and then just got stuffed in the fence. So it wasn't looking good before that, but it was just to cap it off.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously not the sort of particular performance we used to see from you at this track. You know, you darting off many seconds into the lead, but definitely not a bad night overall. You take a podium finish. I think strategy still on the right side of it, but I think little things went wrong today that kind of sort of compounded your misery, I suppose. Is there anything you had to take one or a couple of things out from that race that you potentially do differently? Would you have done anything differently, or do you think you maximized what you could today?
I mean, there's always something you can do better. It's just the fact of racing. I was trying some different settings, so I wasn't exactly sure what to expect, but I was pretty happy with what I figured out as far as that aspect. Strategy-wise, I probably should have known that they were gonna split the run in half. It's always kind of one of those things where you're not sure if they're gonna just push it 100% and then just do a longer second stint. I was kind of hoping to go along the first stint and just rip on it the second, like, final 10 laps to the finish. But when the leaders started pitting, it kind of forced my hand to follow them in, and then we were just trying to make up ground from then on.
Yeah, but definitely a solid podium finish overall, good performance. Anyone you want to thank, any sponsors or partners you want to credit for getting another podium for the 5 team?
Yeah, shout out to you guys here in Elite. It was a really fun race. It was a lot of moving around, green flag racing. I'm sure that was enjoyable for you guys to commentate. I'm sure Weeks enjoyed it, not having to really do anything but commentate tonight. Shout out to Jesse Rasimas for broadcasting you, and as well William for commentating it. Shout out to Race CPI. We're heading to Darlington this week. Super fun setups coming up this week. So yeah, I'm gonna be looking forward to running that. Shout out to Pro Edge Racing, Tate Lytle, Harrison Allen, Payone. We like to mess with them with that. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, congratulations again on another solid finish, John. Another P3, and hopefully we'll see you in victory lane a few more times this season.
Yep. Hopefully we can grab one.
Definitely. Well, congratulations again. Thank you very much for your time, John.
Yeah. Have a good night.
So that was third place finisher Jonathan Cutlett. Now joining me in the commentary box, second place finisher, silver medalist Josh Adams. A very good night for the Shift Esports 81, but I'm sure just one spot short of where you potentially thought you could be. But how do you rate tonight's performance overall for the 81 machine?
Yeah, I would have liked to win for sure, but you know, coming off of not being here last week and you know, losing some points and getting put on the cut line, I needed a finish like that. So I'll definitely take it. I didn't really stack up any stage points, but usually when I get off strategy like that, it never works out. So props to everybody in that race for keeping it green for a change and letting us run green and actually naturally play out a strategy.
Yeah, definitely. I think the majority of the field got on the right side of the strategy there, and I think you did well to maximize it. If you take sort of one, two things from tonight's performance, do you think you had anything for that 66 machine? If you maybe go back, redo this race over again, is there one or two things that potentially you do differently, or do you think you got everything you could tonight?
I think I got everything I could on the last run. I think if I would have just ran him and Tom a little bit harder on the run prior and tried to pass one of them, that would have probably maybe worked out for me potentially. But when I got into the situation on the last run where I was just trying to chase him for the win, that wasn't my strong suit. My strong suit was just going down and kind of dictating my own pace. So I think I just kind of ran some of the good out of the truck, but I'm not mad at it.
Definitely. Well, looking ahead towards the last part of the regular season here, two races to go. Of course, you're on the cut line coming into this. Second place finish won't hurt your points aspirations at all. But we look towards a road course in Barber Motorsports Park, which Elite has never been to in the stock car stuff, and then a super speedway in Talladega, which is of course a wild card in and of itself. Taking those two races kind of at face value, what do you think you can get out of those two races, and how do you rate your chances of solidly making the playoffs and making a title run potentially?
I think with the finish tonight, my chances of making the playoffs are pretty solid, but I just got to stay on track next week. I'm not good at the road courses, but if I can manage like a 15th place finish or something, and then just hopefully be in a position to go have fun at Talladega. But you know, I'd like to go into Talladega not stressing. So I definitely need to as good of a finish as I can get next week.
Definitely. Well, of course, a solid P2 finish for the 81 machine. Any sponsors, partners you want to thank for getting that Shift Esports machine up onto the podium once again?
Oh yeah, just the guys at Shift. We talked about the strategy. We had about 50-50, I think, on who was on what. But Mike and Nick and Donnie, JUICYSPYDER Studios. We got NJB Designs making me look good with the paint scheme. Me and Donnie running the High Side podcast. We've been having some fun with that, so you can check that out on YouTube on the JUICYSPYDER network. It's just all those guys. Chad for putting everything on. I know a lot of things are potentially about to start changing, and hopefully it's for the better. So I think we're looking up.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations again on another P2 finish, and thanks very much for your time, Josh.
Thank you.
That was your runner-up, Joshua Adams. Now joining me, man of the hour. It's another solid finish. It's another checkered flag in Elite for Tommy Ryan, the 66. Firstly, congratulations on the victory. How do you rate tonight's performance? Of course, you ended up in victory lane.
I got lucky with pit strategy there. A bunch of guys decided not to pit, and me and my teammate JP, we went after it, and thankfully it went green. So I kind of split the run there and had a good pit stop, and this one worked out in my favor.
Yeah, definitely strategy playing into your favor there. I think hard to pick apart and to nitpick up at a performance when, of course, you win by a second and a half, you execute perfectly. But, we look towards the next two races, Bubble Motorsports Park, we know how good you are on the road courses, and we know how good you are on the super speedways. We've got Talladega next. Those are two tracks that certainly play to your strengths in terms of wildcard tracks that you can certainly perform on. Obviously a win will do you no harm in terms of points. How are we looking towards potentially a playoff push and a title charge potentially, seeing how the rest of the regular season looks for you?
Well, as long as I just execute in these races and just don't minimize mistakes and try not to make any, I should fare out pretty well, I hope. But I'm just going to show up, race hard, whether I'm in the points battle or not, and see where we end up.
Absolutely. Well, who do you want to thank for getting that 66 into victory lane after a brilliant performance there for you?
Yeah, thanks my teammates. We trade ideas and help each other get up to speed pretty quickly, and northerntool.com and Jameson's Custom Corvette.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations again on another victory in Elite. Tommy, hopefully we'll see you in victory lane in a few more, but thanks very much for your time.
All right, man. Thanks.
So that was your race winner, the 66 of Tommy Ryan for Unacceptable Racing. Some final thoughts quickly from Mathieu Weeks, race controller of Pro Edge Racing. Obviously, only one caution to split the race down the middle. How do you make of tonight's action?
A, a turn in the right direction for Elite. We've had a rough couple of weeks, I would say a few months, with a lot of cautions during races, and this is the right week to turn things around, especially with the new announcement we had that's going to be starting in the playoffs with the new penalty system and stuff. So this is the right way to go. Now we look forward. We got Stafford tomorrow, and then we got the Coke 600 Wednesday. So Monday night and Wednesday night, these boys need to look at like, oh, the Truck Series had only one caution. Let's do better. So hopefully this was the right way to go, and the race was great. Good race.
Yeah, definitely. Look, some really really solid clean racing out there, but no racing like grandmas either. They definitely didn't shy away from any battles, which is good to see, good to analyze, good to commentate on. Obviously, as you mentioned, a short track race at Stafford in the Xfinity cars. That could throw up some carnage. We'll see how many cautions we get that particular night. Then, of course, Tuesday night is the start of the 2025 B Rev Limit Workshop Development Series at Chicagoland Speedway. So that will be very interesting to watch, as that will use the new Arca Menard Series bodies for the very first time in Elite. Very, very drafty cars. They'll be very, very different to the old Arca models we used in the first 5 seasons. So definitely going to be interesting to watch. Then, of course, as Matthew mentioned, the Coke 600 on Wednesday night, which I'm race controlling, and I really hope this is a step in the right direction, because 400 miles at Charlotte can go very, very slowly when you're in England and there's a lot of caution. So hopefully some green flag racing awaits us at Charlotte on Wednesday night. Very similar to what we saw tonight. A brilliant race here at Kansas from myself, William White, from Mathieu Weeks, race controller, and play-by-play analyst Jesse Rasimas on the production buttons tonight, as well as everyone else at the Elite Racing Network and the Elite Racing League. All our premier partners, thank you so very much for watching. Hope you have a very good rest of your evening, and good night. Thank you for watching.
They walk among us, but at 240 miles per hour, they become something more. They're thrill seekers, risk takers, and maybe just a little bit unhinged. Buckle up. This new era of speed, this racing revolution, it's just getting started.